Good evening, guys, and welcome to the Fantasy Pavilion. This is our preview for the Singapore Grand Prix, which is about to happen on Sunday. With me tonight, as always, we have Ishmael and Jared is away again on cricket duty. So here we are tonight. Let's get things started. Ish, good evening, bro. How are you?
Hey, evening. I'm gonna say a word, and you're gonna hear it repeated all weekend. Hot, very, very hot.
I hear you, sir. Repeat it one more time.
They're gonna repeat it all weekend. Don't worry. Everyone asks about the Grand Prix and how they expect the race to be. The blistering temperatures is going to be mentioned.
Well, yeah, for sure. Singapore is always a hot race. Drivers love to take their ice baths before, after, and in between sessions because it really is just hot. And I think people fail to realize these cars do not have AC. And granted, they are going through the air at 200 plus, 300 plus kilometers per hour. It's not like it's cool air passing, like, you're driving through the night and it's just cool breeze you're blowing through. They have literally a very big hot engine on their back. And I mean, they're so low to the ground when it does great on the ground and you see some sparks, they're feeling that heat as well. So, I mean, as we always do, let's take a quick look back at the Qatar Airways Grand Prix that was last week in Baku, the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, aka the key that we all enjoyed it. I mean, Ish, what were your thoughts on yours? Let me pull up the results in the meantime.
I was so heartbroken with that crash to the end. Honestly, I really thought it was being going to be a very good race. It was, going there. I'm still happy with certain things, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm just also heartbroken with the crash. Really good to see Perez doing something with the car. Um,
Correct.
Happy with the rookies. The rookies did really well. Um, we also had uh, double William points, and we also have, I believe, uh, driver for Haas, rookie, forgetting his name right now. Um,
Is Ollie Behrman.
Ollie scoring back to back points
Yup,
with
the
two
first
different
driver
teams.
to score with two different teams. Yeah.
So some really good stuff, really good stuff. Um, we had the question of whether we're gonna have papaya rules, and we saw it turned out very interesting.
I mean, Oscar
Where
say F that, and he just going.
where Lando had to be the one to hold up Charles to
Yeah.
let us cup it. So it's really interesting. I may have just been doing a McLaren application to for one of their positions that they have out right now, and
Right.
in part of the application there's a 2 minute video where you have to upload or record yourself with a video suggesting what parts of the team or the car in terms of development you would target for the rest of the season. Found that
Okay.
very interesting.
And that's what that particular position that you're applying for is just a general question.
I can't say because I didn't check the other positions, but I suspect it may have been a generalish question.
Right.
So it's interesting. It's interesting.
Okay.
Usually, I think that's where they say, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, they want to see just how interested you are in his team and his sports, I guess.
Yeah, and I was trying to think about something, and like I ended up not going through with it because I couldn't find specifically what I would improve because I think they have a very good setup right now.
Yeah, they
Um,
have a pretty balanced car, but I
I
mean, there's
think,
always ways to improve.
yeah, there's always places to improve, but I think also sometimes trying to improve too much might hinder what you have.
Mm-hmm.
So right now they have a very good car. I don't see much other teams out developing them between now and the
As
end of the season,
so, I
and
mean,
they
did
have
they
two
say
very good
specifically with the
drivers.
car?
Sorry,
Did they ask specifically with the car?
they asked with the car and with the team, and I
I would
think
have said I would have said strategy. That would have been my answer in all honesty. Not to shoot any shots, but I think they McLaren loses or they leave a lot of points on the table because of poor strategy decisions at times. I would even say pit stops they could probably do a bit better, get a little faster. I would have taken a more off car approach as opposed to okay, this is a problem with the car, because as I said, they have the fastest car right now, they have the most balanced car right now.
I think they have two very promising drivers as well. So I think
Correct. So I don't
what
think they
they
have
need
a
to
car
do,
driver problem. I think their problem is more strategic.
I think what they really need to do is just be consistent. To be honest, keep it a little bit safe, but keep it more consistent. So
Yeah.
yeah, but back on Baku, very good race. Really sad to see the retirements, but
Yeah, I'm just
I
gonna run
enjoyed the
through the
race.
results quick. So first place we had Oscar, followed by Charles, George, Lando, Max, Fernando Alonso, Alex Albon, Franco Colapinto, Lewis Hamilton
You
in
have to
ninth,
pause on Lewis
Tony
Hamilton
Behrman.
because you have to remember Lewis Hamilton started
Started from the flipping pits, bro.
from the pits.
And he make it up to ninth place on a
I
track
think that
that
was I think that was
no,
big.
I mean you had to give him any flaws. Lewis is Lewis, Lewis is him. But I think what the only thing that could eclipse Lewis making it up from pit lane to ninth is Franco Colapinto. This is a man that never driven F1 before, jumping the Williams in place of Logan Sargent and said, hold my bear. And my boy went in to put in 4 points in his debut race for Williams,
Massive, massive,
scoring more
absolutely massive.
points than Logan Sargent in his entire Formula One career, which just shows Logan was the problem with Williams. And honestly, it's just
Not,
so
I wouldn't
exciting.
say not necessarily that because, I mean,
Okay,
Logan,
no, it's
he
harsh
made
to
it
say
to
he
F1.
was the
It's
big
hard,
problem,
it's
but
hard,
he
it's
made
hard.
it harder.
But you have to understand also that Williams has been in an upward trajectory in terms of car development.
Correct,
So I
correct, correct,
think
correct.
Colapinto came in at a good time as well.
He did.
So things work out in a certain way, but you can't take away anything from Colapinto from what he did.
No, you can't. I mean, it was just a really great race. I think. I mean, in my opinion, when I watched back the incident, to the end of the race there between Sainz and Perez, put the blame personally on Perez, and some people want to
Um,
blame Sainz. I saw the angles I saw. I will put the blame on Perez. Why? Sainz was one ahead and he came out to the corner first. So he had righted. So they were both fighting for the they were both fighting for the slipstream of Leclerc up in front. But with that, because Sainz was in front, he owned the track, so to speak. And he did not put in steering lock to then try and force Perez over. He literally was just drifting. As a matter of fact, he was in a straight line.
no. So looking at the reviews, I would say is 51-49 because Sainz did have some luck on his steering compared to
Yeah, but
Perez.
that's
Absolutely nothing.
normal. Drivers will always try to close the gap and try and force you out. That's just racing. He
Yeah,
didn't do
but
so, but it will have a little tiny lock on it to like close down that gap, and that's Mac's favorite thing to do on people.
Perez was the one who had the space and controlled the space.
Exactly.
So
No, Perez should have been the one to move. He had more space on his side.
right. So that's why I
As the
would
driver
say
behind, he had to quote unquote give way to what Sainz was doing.
yeah. So that's why I would say 51-49 because it could be either way. But
Yeah.
I put it down to incident. When I initially saw it and they came out and said incident, I was a bit shocked. But
Mm-hmm.
having reviewed it, I would put it down as an incident.
Yeah, it was a racing incident, but at the same time, I think the blame, in my opinion, lands on the back of Perez, because I think as a racing driver, especially at this caliber, you're supposed to know what fights to fight, what fights not to fight. Granted, if a gap exists and you do not go for the gap, then you are no longer a racing driver. But I think within that, it's still an important thing to know what gaps are challengeable. And I think that one in particular, knowing the track, the corner they were approaching, he would have been much better just tucking in behind, collecting the slipstream and the RS from signs, and making the passing a much safer way, because now he ruined his car, and now it's just going to be even more money lost in thing. It's gonna make look
Yeah,
bad
but but
as
for
opposed to just finishing ahead of Max the first time.
fourth place is 12 points, right?
Exactly, but he would have been ahead of Max.
Points, he ended up with 0 points compared to 12 points.
Correct. And now McLaren is ahead in the Constructors Championship.
Yeah,
So
so
I think that's where the pressure got to him a little bit. He was just too focused on trying to finish too high up and not
I
realize that.
honestly I think he didn't he was watching Charles too much when Sainz was the person he was battling at that time.
Yeah,
So focus was probably just in the wrong place.
it was.
But
But at the end of the day, it was a pretty good race.
yeah,
I think it had a lot of action. It was pretty enjoyable. And I guess that's what we want to see more this season. And look at that. Max finished out of the top, what, for top five? And he finished fifth. He finished fifth. And we barely talking about that, because it's just like, not Mercedes, Red Bull's fall from race is just ridiculous. And then look Fernando Alonso sticking it up there in sixth. That was a bit surprising, but I think that's just how the race unfolded. But all in all, it was a pretty good race. So let's talk about Singapore. Let's talk about Singapore last year. And then,
so 100% safety car record.
correct, every single Singapore Grand Prix is the very first night race in Formula One. Let me put it up on screen for everyone to see.
So I think more than just the place being hot is the humidity that gets to you,
Correct.
because sweating doesn't really help much when the place is humid.
Not only that, and then two for the drivers, the sweating and that is just on their skin.
Yeah,
So
and
it's
then
just
because
drying
of
pretty
that,
quickly.
your body will sweat more, and then
Hmm.
it does nothing, and your body will sweat more. So
Yeah.
you end up with no cooling effect, causing you to sweat a lot. So that's how they end up losing like 2+ kgs in
Of
water
body
weight.
weight, yeah. So let's go, guys. So last year's top 10 was Carlos Sainz in first, Lando Norris in second, Lewis Hamilton in third, Charles Leclerc in fourth, Max Verstappen fifth, Pierre Gasly in sixth, Oscar Piastri in seventh, Sergio Perez in eighth, Liam Lawson in ninth, and K Mag in 10th. As we talk about the man K Mag, he is returning this weekend from
Zero
his
points, fresh
ban,
license, no contract.
zero penalty points on his license, and he himself said, "It's funny that you come back from a ban with no points on your license, just feeling to F things up." And honestly, I am here for it. Because, I mean, admittedly, it more than likely is K Mag's last season in Formula One. As of right now, that's how it looks. And I think he is ready to go out with a bang. He's geared up with
Honestly,
looking
I'm
big.
trying to figure out what is going on with Haas this season. Um, is it a Haas issue? Is it a Kimag issue? Because you see Oli coming in and getting points,
Correct.
and you see Nico sometimes pushing it up there, but Kimag hasn't been there most of it. Um, I can't really say
I think it's a
what
bit
this
too
is.
when Oli came in there, because I mean, anybody who drives a car at the start of the season compared to somebody who drives the car in the middle of the season, more than likely the car in the middle of the season will be better than the car at the beginning of the season. So it is somewhat unfair to compare K-Mag to Ollie because I mean the car is somewhat different. Um and then too they're racing for different things. As much as yes, they're both racing for a seat. I think Ollie comes in with a lot less pressure on his back as opposed to K-Mag, who are fighting for a job. Whereas Ollie, he's a Ferrari driver, so he knows he's gonna get a seat at some point in time. He just has to come out, do pretty well, and impress. And he already did that this year when he stepped in for Carlos. So I think there was a different level of pressure, and then the car is just also in a bit of a better place. Because Hulkenberg wasn't too far behind. Hulkenberg finished where? In 13th. So I mean, for Ollie to step in and beat um Nico, that's also something pretty impressive.
Yeah, and there is rumor that VCAB seats may
Will
be
be up for
announced
grabs very soon. Yeah,
after this race.
correct.
So
And that it'll be interesting to see what happens. Who holds the fate of Danny Rick, and what are they going to decide?
yeah,
So
as much as I love Daniel, I don't see him be getting that seat.
correct. I think
Um,
his time is more or less over. I think when he left McLaren, that is where his career went downhill. Or if we're being truly honest, when he left Red Bull, that is where his career really took a dip. Granted, the tensions there were just a bit too high, but I think if it is he stayed at Red Bull a little longer, it may have worked out better for him in the long run.
I don't see it working that way. So he took he made the decisions that he had to make in retrospect. Everything is different,
Correct,
but
very true.
I think he can still hold his head up and say
Yeah, he
that he
could be
did
proud
what
of the
he
career he had.
never say never because you never know what happen. Maybe Checo middle of the year, you know,
I
ends up
mean,
not being in Red Bull.
maybe
Maybe
Audi decides to scoop him up
you
because they
never
still
know.
have seats available. So
You
you
never
never
know.
know.
So, but for now, I think this might be the last race where we have hope for a return in the V-Cab seats.
Yeah. So let's get into it. This weekend we have the Marina Bay Circuit, aka Singapore, a very hot, scorching track. Lewis Hamilton holds the lap record here last year, actually, with 135. He is also known to have made a beautiful, absolutely magical quali lap back in 2018. It is regarded as one of the best quali laps of all time, and I'm not saying that just as a Lewis fanboy, but I think really was just a really well put together track. I mean lap, sorry. So this race, sorry, is 62 laps long, 4.94 kilometers long, nearly a 5K. So if it is you went or you go and run a 5K, think about you did that and you just basically walk around the Yas Marina circuit. I mean the Marina Bay circuit. So we're gonna start off our track guide on the straightaway here, 19 corners. As most tracks, the first main straight is DRS. You will not have it on the first lap. So heavy braking into turn one. I mean, and this is an iconic corner whereby you can see things fall apart for some drivers here, and it could also set up the rest of the race.
That's
So
also a very long start finish
correct.
straight.
So breaking into one, left hander, two, and it's a nice smooth right hander of two into three. They'll be pretty hard on the brakes, and then coming around, flat out through four, heavy braking into five, DRS zone. And the nice thing with this street circuit, there are three DRS zones, which is epic. So anyway, we're back through
It's
coming
up
out
to
to the
four
right hander.
DRS zones now this year.
Would they
The back
increase it?
street, the new street, they give DRS on the new street.
Yes. Oh yes, true. It's four, right? Four DRS zones we have, guys. Missed
Yeah,
that one in the corner there. So yeah, so on that back straight, it is flat from 5 to 7, heavy braking into 7. Going through those. 90-degree corners of 8 and 9, breaking into 10. A nice little sweeping kind of left hander there, heavy breaking into 11. Um, they'll probably go close to flat out through 12, breaking into 13. We're gonna try and see somebody pelting it up the inside into 14, and then DRS again all the way through 14, 15, 16. What it is going to happen is you're gonna find people playing games between 11 and 12 hanging back so they could pick up the DRS section between 12 and 13, because that when they get DRS there, it then serves them through 13 to 16, because what they will do, try to pull off the move into 14 and then use DRS from 14 to 16 to get away from the guy that they just passed. So you're going to see people playing games between 12 and 13. I think this is where Max and Lewis went into the back of each other last year, playing games for that DRS detection
I think
line.
Charles
So
was playing some games as well.
correct. So you're gonna find the drivers playing the game to try and pick up DRS, heavy braking into the right hand of turn 16, and then you're gonna be flat out through 18, 19, and across the line. As we said, it's a long straightaway, and persons are gonna be heavy braking and trying to dive bomb maybe into one. So that's essentially a lap of the Marina Bay Street Circuit. It is a night race. It starts at 8 a.m. local time here in Trinidad. So it's definitely a race that you could get up, watch with your breakfast in front of you, and enjoy. What are you looking forward to for this race most ish?
Strategy. So it's one of the longest pit stops in terms of time.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that you have to go down to 16, not 80, in this pit limiter. So it
Yeah.
takes up a lot of time. So most teams would want to go to a one stop, and we have Pirelli carrying the three softest compounds in the range for the race. So tire deck will be something to look out for.
Yeah, to make
Um,
things interesting.
but you have to remember that while it might take longer, pitching a second time might take even longer. So they'll look for any safety cars that will definitely trigger some two stoppers.
Yeah.
Um, I would say I don't want to say when, but if a safety car happens, the timing of the safety car, whether it be virtual or full, is going to make a big difference, and
For sure.
the strategists going to have to be on their toes. I love a race where you have strategists having to make quick decisions and be up there. Um, Maybe who knows? This could be the first non-safety car.
I rebuke that. I rebuke that. We want a safety car. Do not do that, sir. Do not do that. Let's
Who
keep that
knows?
record going. Granted, it's going to be at the cost of somebody. Ideally, not any of the drivers we like, but I think the safety car adds an element of surprise and uncertainty that we have not seen a lot this season, actually.
Who
There's been
knows?
a lot of
We'll
races
see.
with no safety car whatsoever, no yellow flag, no VSC. I'll even take a VSC. If not a full safety, at least a VSC.
What you might see is a lot of drivers sticking it out to keep track position. So
Mm-hmm.
if a safety car happens, they could do a quick pit
They could then get a cheap pit stop, correct?
and
So,
then get a net gain. But
yeah.
that doesn't always work out because
No, it doesn't. And at the end of the day, it is going to have to really, it is a gamble at the end of the day.
and it's a
When do you do
gamble that
it?
maybe who knows, Colapinto could end up third in the pit round. Who knows?
I mean, time will tell, but I don't see that one happening in particular. I think people that could maybe capitalize on something like this is more experienced drivers like Lewis, maybe Alonso. If it is, I mean, they know the track, and then at the end of the day, teams could see other drivers and see maybe what it is they're doing. Um, I
I would
mean,
say
Stroll just might bend it as he usually does, and we
maybe.
get our safety car VSC, and that way, we get some free stops. So maybe they will just be waiting on Stroll to do some madness.
But what I would say is that the teams that are not expected or expectant of being in the points would be the
This is
ones
a
who
track
could
that
take
they
the
have a
gamble,
chance. Yeah.
and leave Colapinto out for 35 laps on some mediums that he starts with, and
I
maybe he
mean,
might be in
the
top.
mediums. I doubt the mediums will last that long, but I get what you mean. I think what would be a nice gamble here at this race would be somebody starting on the hards. They're gonna suffer for the first maybe 5 to 10 laps, but then after that they could just sit down and stick it out, and they will be most able or best able to react to a safety car or VSC to then capitalize on a cheap stop. Or it just works out whereby they see everybody doing the stop early and they take the gamble, they push a little harder, and then they make a stop later on and they think. So even if it is you start off, let's say in 10th, and you use your hards, you make it all the way up to let's say second or third, and a VSC comes, you're gonna maintain that second or third. Or if it
Maybe
is you
even go
don't
down to
make a
fifth.
stop, huh?
But that say maybe even go down to fifth, but that's still a net overall gain.
Correct, exactly. So, I mean, it is a gamble. I personally would love to see that strategy in the top 10 of the field because I could see it being played for sure in the back of the grid. But I'd love to see it
Yeah.
in top 10 just to see how it
So
unfolds.
just as we get in there, get into the fantasy part of it now. Chips, right? Because last time somebody may have mentioned that who knows, maybe a McLaren might get knocked out in Q1. So
Yeah.
maybe so said, so done. So, any chips that we looking for here? I think the non-negative is a shout. But honestly, I waited on Jared to come back and let's get some
I
chips.
mean, we can't see his well, those teams, and I actually think the game is undergoing maintenance. Um, as I try to pull it up now, but I think honestly, as we said last week, definitely have either the McLaren constructor or one of two of the drivers. I think the Williams is a good shot. I think I said that last week as well. Um, it is a cheap but stable option to have any team right now. So I would say have either Colapinto or Albon. I mean, based on your budget, I would say put Albon over.
I would say Williams constructor.
Yeah. I mean, that's a
And
good shot too. And then you go higher on our next constructor as well. So if you do a McLaren or Red Bull, that's a good shout.
I would probably not go the Red Bull over McLaren at this point.
I mean, you wouldn't, but
Yeah.
I mean, some people just have a preference because what they could then do is do a Red Bull
And
constructor
then do
and
multiple
then do
drivers.
the
Yeah.
two McLaren drivers, or they do the McLaren car, the Williams car, and then you balance it out with a Max, or you do a Lewis with a maybe a Perez, not a Perez, no, definitely not a Perez. You could do a Lewis with an
Maybe a
Alonso.
Russell because Russell seems to be picking up lots of points for driving just
That's it.
behind
Yeah, you
accident.
do an Alonso, and you wouldn't be too far off. And I would always say Alonso over Stroll. I mean, Newey settled in, or not settled in, but Newey is confirmed he is going to Aston next year. I saw a meme whereby Stroll crashes the car as usual, and then Newey beats him because you mash up my creation. And then you see Lawrence in the background staring at Adrian beating his son like, yeah, he just need the licks. Because at what point in time does Lawrence Stroll wake up and say, I want to build this team to the best it could be, and my son is not going to get it
When Mark says yes, I will join.
there? I mean, fair point. Fair point. But I mean, and the rumors are it could happen, especially as Adrian is now there. We know Max loves to work with Adrian, so it just might happen. But why is he taking so long to make that decision? There are so many other drivers that would have Aston Martin to be in a much more secure, stable place right now.
I think a lot of the reason that he is in it in the first place is because of his son. Um, take take away what you want from Stroll, I think he still is a decent driver. He may not be the best, and I don't see them replacing them with a young driver. What would happen is if there's a proven driver that wants to join, I think they
Agreed.
may take
Yeah,
that chance.
but
So if
if
you
it
get like a
is,
Max or a Lewis or a Charles, maybe even Sainz,
mhm.
but
If it is we compared Stroll's record to say someone like Sargent, the only reasons I believe Stroll is able to put any points on a more consistent basis than Sargent, because I mean they both start. Well, I mean Stroll started at Williams as well. Is simply because they have the Aston is not a quote unquote slow car. On the right day it will work. So I honestly do not think Stroll's accomplishments are down to his driving. It's simply opportunity and having a good enough car.
yeah,
That's my personal opinion. People might disagree, but I do not rate Stroll as a driver in all honesty.
I wouldn't put him up there, but he still has some talent in being there and not crashing every week, so, like some previous drivers that we had. So
Yeah.
uh, I think any final thoughts on the picks?
On Singapore, I would say I want to see the top three to be ideally, I want to see Signs again taking back the win because he won here last year. I want to see Lewis on second and Norris third.
And realistically,
And realistically, I would say it will end up Norris, Leclerc, Piastri. I could see the Ferrari splitting into McLarens this weekend, whether in quali or in the race itself. What do you say?
I would say Piastri, Max, Norris.
Piastri, Max, Norris. That's a fair shot. So,
Yeah.
guys,
I
as
don't know
we
where
went,
Max getting that from, but
I
Max,
don't know where Max getting that from either. That's why I didn't call him name at all. Because
Max.
after Azerbaijan, I realized they are just struggling, and it is ridiculous to have been on that high to fall to where they are now is
Well, I
really
mean,
questionable.
Toto was right all along, right?
Yeah, I mean, Tutu is hardly ever wrong, eh? No, Michael, no, that's so not right.
Oh,
Um,
and speaking of that as well, apparently we can finish a car, finish a race under
we
without
can't finish exactly. We can't finish a race under the safety car or virtual safety car. I mean, people will argue, oh, it's not the last race of the season. It's not a title decider.
It
It's
doesn't
just a
matter.
race.
It doesn't matter.
But
All races are
agreed,
same
it
race.
doesn't matter. Rules is rules, and they are meant to be followed. We should not put spectacle over safety. We should not put fairness over anything else or after anything else. Anyway, before we get into that hot topic and I get all steamy and very upset, just to give you all guys a rundown, practice 1 and 2 is tomorrow, September 20th. The first session is at 5:30 a.m. to 6:30 a.m., followed by the second section at 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. And then practice 3 is on Saturday at 5:30 a.m. and then at 6:30 from 5:30 a.m. to 6:30 a.m., followed by quali from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. and the race Sunday at 8 a.m. It's gonna be an interesting one. As we said, this is a track that has had so far 100% safety car appearance rates. We're gonna see if that continues this year. Um, the McLarens again have the fastest car. I mean, everybody is watching their rearing to see what is really going on in the back there. When that car is at speed and the DRS is not open, I think everybody's going to be watching that this weekend, especially as we have 3 or 4 straights essentially, as we have 4 DRS zones. Um, so it's going to be interesting to see what the McLaren or how they perform. I think the Ferraris are actually really racy right now. I think right now, if it is I had to read the cars, it would be McLaren, Ferrari, Red Bull, Mercedes.
Wow,
That's the top four, I would think.
Red Bull over Mercedes too.
I mean, not really, but I will still put it there because at the end of the day, it's still a faster car. Are they getting all the performance out of it right now? No, but it's still on paper the faster, better car. And I mean, for a Mercedes man to say that, I'm speaking from a place of honesty. I haven't seen us outperforming Red Bull enough to say we have a better car as yet. So yeah. Um, I think one thing we didn't do so far is where do we think the constructors are going to end up? We all have our theories or idea of where the drivers is going to finish up, but where do you think the constructors championship is going to end this year? I could pull it up right now, so we just have a quick live view.
I don't think the drivers is as finished as you think it is. And even if the first place is
I
secured,
mean,
even if the
let's
first
watch
place
it
is
and see.
secured, there is quite a lot beyond the first place that has
Yeah,
to
so
be tried.
outside of the first place, so if it is we watch it here. So Max is currently on 313 points, Lando on 254, Charles Leclerc on 235, Oscar on 222, Sainz on 184, Lewis on 166, George on 143, Sergio Perez on 143, Fernando Alonso on 58, and Lance Stroll on 24. So just now before we go. I remember there is some comment. Um it's either Max repeated it, but I think Oscar said it. Oscar is closer to Lando than
Piastri is closer to
Lando
Lando
is
than Lando is to
to
Max.
Max. Correct. And I think that then shows where Piastri's head is. He does not care for Lando getting a first place. He cares for him getting second in the constructor. And I think that is where McLaren needs to be as well. Focus on, I mean, you're more than likely already going to get constructors. Let your drivers have some quote unquote fun, and next year you all fight for the drivers' championship.
I would say not necessarily, right? Because how many races we have remaining? This is race. Um,
We have United States, Mexico.
we have
Um,
quite a few.
yeah, we have a couple more
Let me just pull
remaining.
it up here.
Right. So one sec, I have it here. We have
Two,
Singapore,
three,
United
four,
States,
five,
Mexico, Brazil,
six.
Las
That's
Vegas,
150 points to
Abu
play with.
Dhabi. So that's six, and then essentially seven because this race ain't going as yet.
That's 175 points to play with,
Correct.
right? 175 points does not. All right, let's go back to the driver standings. Max is what right now?
313 to Lando's
That's like, let's say
254.
60, 59 or so. If you want to be more precise, maybe I don't know. Is that max? I'm not sure if that's what it is.
313 minus 254. He's exactly 59 points ahead.
Yeah, right. 175 points to play with a 59 points buffer is not a foregone conclusion.
It isn't.
It is not. And
Fanny, it isn't.
if Max finishes outside top five in the
Again,
next three races,
correct. And
things
Lando
are
finishes
going
first.
to be very exciting.
Agreed. It will be.
So it doesn't. I would
I mean,
say
and technically, Charles isn't too far off as well.
yeah, definitely.
Because that 235 to Lando's 254 is not that much. God forbid Lando were to crash out or something like that.
Yeah,
And Charles won. That 25 points would put him at the exact what 250? No,
260.
260 and put him ahead of Lando and
Yeah,
puts him then in contention for the drivers. So as you say, yeah, drivers championship is actually wide open at this point, which
I
is
I
really
think I think it's less to do with where Max finishes
Mm-hmm.
because Max. Let's assume Max finishes outside top five. He could still win, right? But
True.
he could also still lose. I think it's
Correct.
less to do with where Max finishes and
And
more to
more so
do
where
with
those
who
three
is
guys finish.
consistent over the next seven races,
Yeah,
right?
based on where
Who could pull
us.
out four wins out of the next seven? That
Correct.
gives them 100 points. It gives them probably first place or close to first place.
Agreed. Yeah.
So it's open. It's up there.
It's
So
wide open. Yeah, 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 yeah.
I would say even down to maybe like I would say Piastri realistically has a shout, right?
I mean,
Carlos is probably not there.
mathematically, Oscar has a shout, but I think practically it's between Lando and Leclerc to pip it from Max.
We can see and then we say all of this, and Red Bull could just suddenly fix all the issues this
I
weekend.
mean, all of a
So
sudden, correct. It could be that you know what? Let's make this season entertaining,
yeah,
and then if
so
we check on the
they just
construct,
remove the sandbags and pump, right?
correct.
So you never know, you never know. But
I mean,
it's definitely something that's to look for,
and to
and
some extent, Ferrari could even make a shout at constructors this year.
or even passing Red Bull.
Correct. So it could honestly end up McLaren, Ferrari, Red Bull, Mercedes. In all honesty,
Right. So Red Bull could end up third in the constructors, and they could even end up maybe second or third in the
any driver,
drivers.
which will be
So
exciting as hell. I would
yeah,
love that. In all honesty,
we
that
have a
would make
season still
F1
long.
so great.
If it's one thing about being a Real Madrid fan, it's never over till it's over.
I mean, I am not really a football fan, but I honestly get the reference.
Never
So,
over till it's
guys,
over.
it's now, as they say, it's never over until the fat lady sings. So, guys, thank you all very much for tuning in. That has been our show for this week as it relates to a preview to the Singapore Grand Prix, which is this weekend. As Jared would say, happy picking. Um, may the weather be ever in your favor, and may your DRS driver win. And may your constructors finish any points. Ish, any closing words?
Remember the deadline, I would say now is the time. This race is probably the race to go with your guts. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you can take a chance. You never know what happened. There is no guaranteed first place in this race, I would say. So
Correct. There
whatever
isn't.
you think is best, go with it.
Fair point. All right, guys. So that's us. Thank you all for tuning in. Good night and take it easy. Bye.